at the rodeo show. Hotel, motel, holiday inn. Baby, I'll call you. Baby, I'll call you. All I wanna know is, do you want to play? It's all good, but why you stop? I heard you wanna come and play. Not a day you can have it your way. Freak show at the door, here we go. Nuttin Nyce throwing down at the rodeo show.
Why did one of the most promising R&B girl groups of the 90s vanish without a trace? No farewell tour, no breakup announcement, just poof, gone. Was it sabotage, internal betrayal, or were they just another victim of an industry that chews up young talent and spits them out broken? Nuttin Nyce wasn't just some background act. They had a charting single, a major label deal, and were rubbing shoulders with Aaliyah, R. Kelly, and the rising titans of 90s R&B. But the minute they started gaining traction, everything crumbled. One minute they're on BET, the next, they're fighting for royalties, watching their careers dissolve while the label moves on to bigger fish. And behind the scenes, rumors of shady contracts, power struggles, and major fallouts between group members and management that nobody wanted to talk about. So what really happened to Nuttin Nyce? Who pulled the plug? And why did this group disappear just as they were getting started? Because once you peel back the glossy image and radio hits, this wasn't just another girl group breakup. This was a messy mix of exploitation, drama, and the kind of silence that only comes when someone higher up wants you forgotten. What do you get when you mix industry greed, shady contracts, and girl group drama? You get Nuttin Nyce, the 90s R&B trio that had all the heat until they mysteriously vanished. No warning, no goodbye, just erased. One minute they're on BET, dropping charting singles and rubbing elbows with Aaliyah and R. Kelly. The next, radio silence. No music, no tour, nothing. So what happened? Was it label sabotage? Was it internal betrayal? Or was the whole group set up to fail from the start? Used, abused, and thrown to the side the second they pushed back. They had the sound, the look, the raw energy. But behind the scenes, exploitation, backstabbing, money gone missing, and major fallouts with the people who were supposed to protect them. And here's the kicker. They never even got the chance to fall off. They were buried. This is the story of how Nuttin Nyce went from rising stars to a cautionary tale the industry would rather you forget. Before everything went left, Nuttin Nyce was supposed to be the next big thing. Straight out of Oakland, California, this all-female trio had the kind of flavor that labels were desperate for in the early 90s. They weren't just riding the R&B wave, they were supposed to help define it. The group originally featured Alessandro novelist Hamilton, Elisa Randolph, and Ty Harmon. But that lineup didn't last long. Alessandro dipped and the group locked in their final trio with Elisa, Ty, and a new member who fit the vibe. Jive Records, the same label behind giants like Aaliyah and R. Kelly, snatched them up fast, clearly seeing dollar signs and crossover potential. Their debut single, Froggystyle, was a bold, bass-heavy anthem that got attention real quick. It wasn't just catchy, it was risky, suggestive, and unapologetically bold, dropping right in the middle of a male-dominated era where most girl groups still had to play nice. They even landed on the A Low Down Dirty Shame soundtrack. Yeah, the same one with Jada Pinkett and Keenan Ivory Wayans. Major placement, major momentum, they had the look. The street-smart sass, the label backing, the industry connections. Everything about them screamed TLC meets Salt and Peppa with just enough edge to stand out. But that momentum, it didn't last long, and what came next wasn't just a career slowdown, it was a total wipeout. Here's where things start to smell a little funky. While Nuttin Nyce was out here grinding, trying to turn radio spins into real success, Jive Records was busy playing favorites. And spoiler alert, Nuttin Nyce wasn't the favorite. Think about it. They were label mates with Aaliyah, R. Kelly, and a whole bunch of acts that Jive knew would bring in millions. So when it came time to cut checks, shoot videos, or push singles, guess who got the crumbs? Industry insiders said the group was fighting just to get basic promo. Barely any interviews, low-budget music videos, radio payola? Forget it. Meanwhile, other artists were flying first class and getting full album campaigns. To make things worse, Jive didn't know how to market them. Nuttin Nyce was raw, edgy, and unapologetically urban. They weren't trying to be pop princesses, and that made the label nervous. So instead of leaning in, they pulled back. The group started getting iced out, not because they weren't talented, but because they weren't easy to control. And in the 90s, if a girl group didn't fit neatly into a box, they got tossed aside. Imagine pouring your heart into the music, killing performances, building a buzz, and then watching your label quietly move on without even telling you. The message was clear. You're not a priority. You never were. And that kind of silent rejection, it doesn't just stall your career, it poisons everything that comes after. But the label drama was just the beginning, because behind the scenes, the group itself was starting to crack. When you're constantly being overlooked, underpaid, and pushed around, that pressure doesn't just stay outside. It creeps into the studio, the rehearsals, the friendships, and soon, Nuttin Nyce went from being a sisterhood to a power struggle. Sources say there were heated fights over creative direction. One member wanted to go harder with the street image. Another pushed for a smoother, more mainstream R&B vibe. And when you've got no control over your label, you start fighting over the only thing you can control: each other. And then came the whispers. One member reportedly started flirting with solo opportunities. Word got around that she was recording on the side, having quiet convos with industry execs, trying to break free before the ship sank. Trust? Gone. Loyalty? Cracked. Their management wasn't helping either. Instead of stepping in to mediate, they allegedly fanned the flames, playing favorites, choosing sides, and manipulating the group dynamic to stay in control. Classic divide and conquer. At one point, it got so bad that rehearsals turned into shouting matches, and sessions were being canceled last minute. There were even rumors that one member straight up ghosted a scheduled tour date. No explanation, no call, just gone. It was like a slow implosion. Nobody wanted to say we're done, but everyone felt it. And when a group is already underpromoted and fighting for scraps, internal beef is the final nail in the coffin. What started as a fierce, unified trio was now just three women trying not to drown in a system designed to sink them. Let's be real. If the drama didn't kill the group, the money problems definitely did. And when we say money problems, we're not talking about overspending on cars and clothes. We're talking about major label theft dressed up as standard contracts. Despite radio play and soundtrack placements, Nuttin Nyce barely saw a dime. Seriously. Word on the street was that their debut album brought in decent numbers, but thanks to shady label math, recoupments, management cuts, mystery fees, the group ended up owing more than they made. Classic 90s label scam. You think you're a rising star, then you check your account and realize you're basically working for free. And when they finally started asking questions, the phones stopped ringing. The opportunities dried up. Suddenly, the label had nothing on the schedule for them. That wasn't bad luck. That was a black ball. Straight up career sabotage for daring to challenge the system. Some insiders claim that the group's attempt to renegotiate their contract or demand better treatment pissed off the wrong execs. You know the type. Industry gatekeepers who smile in your face but quietly pull the plug behind the scenes. The worst part? There were no public meltdowns. No social media to tell their side of the story. Just silence. And that silence? It was intentional. They were buried quietly, swept under the rug while the label pushed their new priorities. Their momentum stolen, their name erased from the roster. It wasn't just mismanagement, it was calculated. A warning shot to every other act thinking about pushing back. And just like that, Nuttin Nyce went from rising stars to industry casualty. Then it happened. No warning, no press release, no farewell single. Nuttin Nyce just vanished. 1 minute they're on BET and climbing the charts. The next, gone. No sophomore album, no comeback attempt, no "Where Are They Now" feature, just total radio silence, like the group never existed. And that naturally sent fans and insiders into rumor mode. Some said the group imploded from the inside, that the label was tired of playing babysitter and just let them rot out their contract in limbo. Others claimed one member ghosted the group entirely, fed up with being broken, ignored, while another tried to stay and rebrand, but got blocked at every turn. And then there were the conspiracy-level whispers that the group was blacklisted, that someone high up at the label wanted them silenced, that they got caught in the crossfire of label beefs, industry politics, or even retaliation for trying to sue or walk away from a bad deal. No one really knows. Because unlike today's artists, Nuttin Nyce didn't have Instagram to tell their side. No live streams, no leaked emails, no YouTube exposés, just silence. And that silence? It's louder than any diss track, because when the industry wants you forgotten, they make sure there's no trail to follow, no official breakup, no scandalous headline, just erased. And that's what made it so chilling. Because for a group with this much potential, you don't just fade out unless someone's actively pulling the plug. After the silence, the story didn't just go cold, it went invisible. No tell-all interviews, no reality show reunions, just a trail of dead ends. So what happened to the women of Nuttin Nyce? Well, here's what we do know. Alessandro novelist Hamilton, who was briefly affiliated with the group early on, took a complete left turn and rebranded himself as MCNICE, a Christian hip-hop artist and gospel music advocate. He went on to find success outside the mainstream system, even snagging Grammy consideration and launching his own digital radio platform. Talk about flipping the script. But for the core trio, the ones who carried the group through its peak, things get blurry. Ty Harmon and Elisa Randolph, practically ghosts. There are no major public updates, no documented solo careers, no viral TikTok resurrections. It's like they walked away from the music industry entirely, or were forced out of it. And honestly, can you blame them? After everything, being chewed up, underpaid, and blackballed, it's no shock if they said, you know what? Keep the fame. I'm done. Some whispers say a member or two stayed involved behind the scenes, ghostwriting, vocal coaching, or quietly helping develop younger acts. But nothing's been confirmed. It's almost like they chose to disappear, or maybe had no choice at all. No solo albums, no public comebacks, no big final act, just faded into real life. And in a way, that's the biggest tragedy of all. Not the fall, but the fact that we never got closure. So what's the legacy of Nuttin Nyce? In an era packed with powerhouse girl groups, they stood out. Not because they were polished or manufactured, but because they were raw, street smart, and unapologetically bold. They weren't trying to be your girl next door. They were kicking down the door, owning their sound, and doing it their way, until the industry shut it all down. They're remembered for Froggystyle, that infectious debut that put them on the map, for their fearless energy, for standing toe-to-toe with giants on the A Low Down Dirty Shame soundtrack, and for representing a lane in 90s R&B that was often overlooked, edgy, gritty, and female-led. But let's be real, they're also remembered for what could have been. They were on the verge of something big. And then, nothing. As for net worth, let's not sugarcoat it. Probably low. Early contracts were brutal, and with no major tour, second album, or long-term career, they likely walked away with scraps. Whatever came after music, they had to rebuild from the ground up. But here's the thing, Nuttin Nyce is still a symbol. A reminder of how fast the industry will love you, use you, and drop you the second you stop playing nice. And in a world that's finally starting to call out those old systems, their story hits harder than ever. Because in the end, Nuttin Nyce didn't fade because they weren't good enough. They faded because they were too real for a system built on silence. And that's what they'll be remembered for. The story of Nuttin Nyce isn't just a music industry what if. It's a warning. This is what happens when talent meets a system built to control, not protect. When you're young, gifted, and female in the 90s R&B machine, you're not handed a roadmap. You're handed a contract designed to keep you in check. They had the talent, they had the presence, but the industry wasn't built for women like them to win. It was built for them to serve a moment, then vanish quietly. And that silence, that wasn't a coincidence. That was by design. So the next time someone tells you a group just didn't make it, ask yourself, or were they never meant to? Because Nuttin Nyce didn't fail, they were failed. And their story deserves to be heard.